Mind.
So I should get like
hey, everyone. How are you? Mind matters.
All right. So
Mindset matters. Yes. What up, everyone? Hi, everybody. Hope you're all well on this beautiful Sunday. We are going to be having a conversation with the one and only Craigie Bizzle.
that's right. What's going on, people? What's going on? All right.
Just adding you on Insta now. So we're on everywhere. We're on Facebook, Instagram. So you can catch us there. So let's go and call Craig. Bam. Just added you now on Insta.
All right.
Here he is. The man all the way from USA.
What's going on, man?
What time? So it's 1 o'clock as we speak.
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. in Boston.
PM. Right? So it's like what, 5 hours different, is it?
Yep, 5 hours ahead, man.
All right. How you been?
Not too bad. You know, just enjoying the sunshine. You know, just trying to make most of the situation. You know, I mean, I'm sure it's different for different people. You know, some people are really enjoying the time, family. You know, making the most of it. And some people are having a really tough time, you know, with like, jobs, people that are business owners and, so it depends, so, but just trying to make the most of it, I would say. How about yourself, man?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You know, we're now back into training. Obviously, we have the rules and relegation that we got to follow. We got to make sure that it's small groups for now until we're told otherwise. But I'm happy to be back in training. Being able to do what we used to do before. It was different, training by myself at home. But there's nothing that comes close when you have partners. You have opponents in front of you, then just kicking the bob. It makes a lot of difference. Makes a lot of difference.
Yeah,
makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. So if you guys are just joining right now, whether it's on Facebook Live or whether it's on Facebook Live, whether it's on Instagram. This is like a new thing that me and Mahama Cho are starting. It's called Mindset Matters. So we're talking about things in regards to mindset, resilience. The mindset of an athlete, a performer, a high achiever. So we're talking about those kind of things. So hopefully this might become a regular thing. So we're open to any of your questions, any topics you want to raise. We've got some topics we're going to talk about ourselves anyway. But meanwhile, midway through, if you have some questions, just throw them out. So, I mean, some of us have got like a different following. So I'm sure on some of your following shows, some people might not know who I am, and I'm on my following. I know some people might not know who you are.
That's right.
Just for the people that that might not know, just do you care to introduce yourself, the superstar Mahama Cho?
Well, my name is Mahama Cho, full name Mahama Abdul Fattah Cho. Don't worry, that full name does fit in my passport if you are wondering. So yeah, I'm from London raised, but born in the Ivory Coast. Taekwondo was a family heritage that I learned. My dad was a champion himself, and he passed it on to me. And hopefully, I will not be passing it on to my child because I don't want to be seeing him in the ring. But it is a sport that definitely helped me to become who I am today as an athlete. I think that the sport, Craig would probably agree with me that the discipline aspect that forms, should we say, an athlete to be able to be the best of themselves. So I was very fortunate to have a group of people from London, the likes of Craig himself, David, Faye, Amin, Big Rich, our mentor, Stephanie Allen, Jib, Zeb. I can keep going. There's a big family out there that the entourage that allowed us to be able to excel to where I am today, and even till today, they're still part of my strength of a group who helps me from a day-to-day basis. So that's pretty much where I've come from.
Okay. So a little bit about me for some of you guys, that are following Cho and you might not know who I am. My name's Craig Brown. I competed for Great Britain for about 13 years, from like 2001 to 2013. You know, went to Athens 2004. Been to like 8 world championships, like 4 or 5 Europeans. You know, competed both in the European circuit and competing for Jamaica as well. You know, like you said, like Mohammed Cho said, I was in the setup, and then Cho joined afterwards. So he's like a little brother to me, you know, and he's just, you know, just like someone like Richard was like a very, you know, Richard Allen, you know, you got people like Michael Giorgio, you know, people like John Wright Diaz, you got people like, you know, there's so, I don't want to miss out on any names. There's so many people. You got like Nelson, you got Nelson Miller, you got, you know, you got, who else can I? There's so many people. You got people like Gary Sykes, people like Seelan Rangasamy. You got, there's so many people that, you know, were really important. Chris Sawyer as well, very very impactful. There's so many people that, you know, that are part of the legacy and the history of Great Britain Taekwondo that don't always, you know, are not always remembered or always recognized. You know, and there a lot of Dennis Robinson. You know, there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing names out, but there's a lot of people that contributed to Taekwondo, you know, as it is today. And even if you have like new people that have come into like a more of a streamlined, like kind of conveyor belt system of creating champions in the UK team right now, you know, some people coming out from outside of Taekwondo. We have to understand that the coaches that are there now that are transforming these guys into great athletes are a product of all of these great coaches that came before. So even if you have people that aren't actually training at Taekwondo clubs right now, where the transformation is happening in Team GB, those coaches that are there now are very much, you know, they are a product of a lot of hard work that has happened over the years, you know, and I think it's important to give the recognition there, you know. And I mean, you yourself chose same like me, you know, like Richard, you know, there's a lot of people, you know, that had a big impact, you know, and
Absolutely.
that are the reason why we're here today, you know.
Absolutely.
And so, and we kind of pass that kind of energy on, you know, and that's important. But for me now, what I'm into now a lot now is I'm into more the mindset. You know, I went back to school at 30. You know, after, you know, I competed for a long time, probably a lot longer than my peers. I mean, I was going for like 17 years. A lot of my peers like retired like 8 years, 8 years like before me. Some of them retired at like 2008. You know, and then 2016, I was still going for it. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, but you know, now my journey is more from a coaching aspect, from a mental performance aspect, you know, trying to help people to really maximize their performance. That's the name of the, you know, the gig, the business, maximizing performance. And it's really trying to, you know, help athletes really achieve their best, you know, really get their mental game on track, on point, you know, because a lot of the time it's the mental game that lets them down, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where I'm at right now, and there should be I mean, there'll be a link at the end if you're interested in, you know, doing some work in that area. You know, you can just holler, you can fill out a form, and you know, we can talk about, you know, how you can help you with that. But you know, really and truly, I mean, what I mean for me, what I wanted to ask, I wanted you to tell me a little bit about your journey. You know, your journey. You know, because obviously your journey is not the most conventional. You know, I mean,
Mm.
obviously you can't. I mean, obviously you're not born here. You have a very unique, distinct culture. You know, you had your own route to where you are now. You know, so can you tell us a little bit about your journey for those that, you know, may be interested?
Yeah, so yeah, as a, you know, as a baby, you know, raised and born in the Ivory Coast, West Africa, where the heat is always 30 to 40 degrees every single day. So yeah, the culture is completely different. You know, the you know, opportunities are not, you know, as flowing as we can say in Europe. So yeah, so my dad, as an athlete himself, you know, traveled to be able, you know, to look after us from a long distance. So he's always was traveling to be able to find opportunities for us while I was a youngster. And then yeah, as you know, going to school and stuff like that, I used to get in trouble quite a lot. You know, so these type of things was, you know, the attribute of my day to day lifestyle was more or less, should we say, surviving, if anything, from wherever it was. But yeah, so my dad did everything that he could to get me out of there to come to Europe and to have a better life. So so since a young age, everything was not, you know, spoon fed. I had to really, you know, grasp every single thing. I had to really appreciate every little thing that was given to me. So coming to England was a big shock factor for me, because coming from a country that's always hot, and I came here in February time when it was like, winter, cold, never experienced, the should we say the fridge condition of a weather. So yeah, so for me it was all new. It was amazing, to embrace that type of culture. And also, family was growing as well. So I was able, to meet different people with different background, different status. So I was always, in the mix of sport and of everything that I do when I came to England. And as we was progressing to the sport of Taekwondo, my dad didn't want to teach me at the beginning because going to school was almost like getting into fights constantly. And he thought for me, if he taught me Taekwondo, I was going to more or less use it at school. He was trying to keep me away more than anything else. But as time was going on, he kind of just introduced me to the discipline aspect first and foremost. How to control your self-esteem, how to diffuse problem, how to be able, to be in a circle of people, even they think negative towards you, how to control and trigger that energy to turn into a positive energy. And this was type of thing was teaching me along the way, how to respond to people, how to treat people in the right manner. And this was all in the space of what Taekwondo was about growing up. And that's what he taught me going in. And then he introduced me to the kicking aspect. We start coming to Flaxman, around here, that area that was training over there. Then that's when I met you for the first time. I think you was getting prepared for a European Championship. And I just remember coming into the gym and it's just full of people, all status of colors, different color belts, all different. So, different for different part of clubs. And I just remember you just, doing this front leg, but I speed that I was thinking, nah, that's way too quick. Everything was just rapid that I saw. You can tell there's a different class within the room, when your aura was there. So I was a green belt at the time when I came in and I was watching you train. And my dad was asking me, do you want to be as quick as him? Do you want to do as him? But I liked my dad. I said, I'm going to eventually be a heavyweight. So I don't know if I'm going to be as quick as him, but I can give it a good try. So yeah,
quick, man. You're quick, man. You're quick.
Well, that's thanks. That's thanks to the likes of you. Watching you train, watching you compete. It made me become a better fighter because as a heavyweight, we don't tend to want to be fast. We're just looking for those points, them the bullet shots more than anything else. So in my mind frame, growing up as a Taekwondo athlete, I just wanted to be fast. I wanted to be quick. I wanted to do the likes of what, the minus 80, the 68s, what they do. That's what I wanted to do. So seeing the likes of you, David, the way you guys were training, it was just amazing. And then plus how the London team was as well. It was like a family. It was everybody, we had like this system of every first month of a weekend we get together to train, and then getting to know that group of people, meeting Master Richard for the first time at a young age. He just grasped me in, he took me in straight away, and he literally did not let go. Every single time there was something, he just called, where are you? I need you here. You need to be coming here. You need to be training here. You should just drag me left, right, and center. And him and my father had a good bond together, where they used to communicate a lot, to make sure that I was always in that right path. And it was just a group of, a circle that was that we was training with constantly, and it kind of just opened a gate for me to get into the national team, shall we say, and then opened a gate path for me to be able to be in there. And when I came in, there was just another stardom. When I came in the gym, that time or the era of 2007 and 2008, I don't think people can understand the element of the training that was involved. Because when I came in, I was at club level. And seeing you, Sarah, David, Tiger Robinson, Tony Griezmann, I can mention loads of names, Romain Bailey. When I see the way you guys was training, I was thinking these guys are killing themselves. They're not almost. It's like the training was what they, was almost the everything when they came in. The adrenaline, you can smell it when you come into the gym. Every single kick, every single effort was 110%. And and at the beginning it was hard. It was hard when I came in because I wasn't at that level yet. But I had to grasp, and I was getting inspired every single morning to come in, to absorb all, everything within that gym, to learn from you guys more than anything else, to step up that ladder slowly and slowly. But it got to a point where I was telling myself, I said, I can never be like these guys. You know, they had years of training, and I'm only just trying to get onto the ladder. Do you know what I mean? But I understood for me to get to where you guys was, I had to be in the gym constantly. I had to do the things you guys were doing. I had to stand in front of the people who were stronger, faster than me, to be able to learn from those likes of people. It doesn't matter how many times I got kicked in the head. I was like, just gotta be there every day. And then as time goes on, I will get better as we go along. And that's what I learned from the group, shall we say, from you guys' era more than anything else. And that's the difference of, you know, of being a great athlete, those who wants to strive, and those who just want to plateau where they are. And that's, well, that's one of the biggest factors. So coming into the academy was, you know, a life-changing experience for me. And I was really fortunate to be, you know, to learn from the likes of, you know, yourself, Sarah, David, very, very fortunate, you know, to learn from those type of people there, because even till today, that energy, that drive, that consistency of training is still within me, you know. And then now I can tell, because I'm now older, I got to pass that on. So whenever we come into the gym, got to always make sure the energy is 110% and the training is 110%, no less than that. And then yeah, and I think from that, it just let me, you know, be who I am as a character in the ring. So to just do whatever I feel. There was no limit to what I was be able to do, because I'll just grasp all that skills from early on to where I am today. And then yeah, the journey's still going, man. So yeah, most definitely it's just even at the age that I am, I still think I'm learning, because the new generation are coming in and they're coming in with new stuff. And you know, I'm watching closely, I'm observing, you know, to always trying to find new ways of how I can develop as a person, because I think learning never stops.
Wow. If you guys just joining right now, welcome. This is Mindset Matters, Craig Brown Mahama Cho, we're just talking about, journeys right now, you know. So you're speaking about energy, I can, what that resonates with me a lot, because when I think about, I don't know what it's like in the academy now, or, on the scene right now, but the kind of the mindset and the energy, and the attitude towards training, is so important, and I feel like in some ways, I mean, and this is checking out different clubs and different places, even regional teams, that mindset and that attitude towards training is so important right now, I mean, and it's important, and to maintain that is so important, because what I'm noticing right now, and I've been in the US for a period of time now, obviously, for the past few years, is that, like, I was used to being in the environment you spoke about, probably I was not only a product of that environment, but because it was passed on to me. Then energy is passed on to me from people like Richard, Chris Sawyer, Michael Giorgio, my original coaches, David was one of my best training partners, helped me so much. But it's like, when you're surrounded by that environment, you can take it for granted. You start to think everyone thinks that way. But then you come out of that environment and you realize, actually, not many people think that way.
True.
Not many people have that mindset, that attitude, that you can write. I don't care if I'm a welterweight, I'm a featherweight. I'm still going to spar a heavyweight. I don't care. I don't care how big they are. And even you have, like, I come from the generation where thin weights, that's the lowest weight, would hold their own against a heavyweight. Like, if you put Paul Green in the ring, yeah, Paul
Mm.
Green will whack up anybody. It doesn't
Anyone.
matter. It doesn't
So
matter
true.
what weight you are. He doesn't care, and that is the same mindset we all had. I remember one of my boys from Nigeria, Chika. This
Chica.
guy was huge, but I remember we was preparing for like 2008, yeah, Olympics, yeah, and me and him would just be going at it. It doesn't matter that he's like 2, 3 foot taller than me and like
I don't
a
think
meter
people
wider
understand
than
how
me.
big Chica is, you know.
Doesn't
If
matter.
you think
Yeah,
I'm big,
yeah,
Chica is massive. Yeah, he's
exactly.
a big guy.
And we'll be going at it, and it'll be good. Even, yeah, so it's like, and I felt that mindset, that kind of survival mindset is important as well, because when you're training, okay, obviously this guy is big, but at the same time, the same way you try and survive in the ring, you have to survive in training. So, okay, I know there's not a referee here now, so maybe I'm going to hold him a little bit. Why I'm sparring. Maybe I'm going to survive. I'm fighting a big dude, man. If he catches me, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
but you still hold your own. And the same way, someone that was good at that was Ramos. Ramos was a
Mm.
guy, yeah, wicked coach, so clever. This guy was like an actor and a player, a fighter in one. You know, he would get you kyongos. You know, the same way a referee would dive, he would dive. You know, but no, but you know, but he was so good, and he was one of the fastest. Listen, his front leg, yeah. Once he shoots that front leg, you're not getting out of the way of that front leg. You're not
It's
getting out of
getting
the way
you.
of that front leg. You know, I don't care who you are. Once he shoots that front leg, you're just gonna stay hit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
So I
true.
just and when you and I'm glad because you have your own unique character. There was and you still have that, and I say keep that because back in the day there was a lot more characters, a lot more
Mm,
people that were individual, unique, competed their own way. You know, when I think about someone like David Thompson, you know, he
mm,
was a character. You know, he
mm,
was very crafty. Richard used the term crafty. You know,
mm.
like he would do something like bend down to hold his shin guard, you know, and then someone thinks they can go and kick him, hit them with one clean back kick, boom,
Actually,
you know. They don't make that mistake again, you know. Make that mistake again, you know. But it's like that crafty sneakiness, that way of, you know, getting the advantage, you know, taking the initiative. Because a big
just
part of
not
Taekwondo is
to
being first.
not to cut you off there, Craig.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
being crafty is like you know what's crazy because I'm probably going to be telling one of us one of the things that we did before, but that was just between me and the coach. I think it was one of the tournament. I was fighting against a heavyweight, obviously, and his cardio was at another level. When I mean his cardio was
Mm-hmm.
another level, his cardio was another level to the point where I never met a heavyweight that can just keep going. You know what I mean? Hey, Russell,
Hey
um,
guys. Mm-hmm.
and he just kept coming from round one. I never see a heavyweight. As soon as it's go ding ding, my man's gone. He's like on you. He's not allowing you to breathe. Every single time when the ref says go, he's just back on you. And I was thinking, how am I gonna be able to manage this guy? So I said, if I go toe to toe with him, I know I'm gonna get tired, and he's gonna take full advantage because his cardio is I think his cardio at the time was better than mine. But I
Mm-hmm.
said, but in my mind frame, I was thinking, I'm not gonna have that. I said, I'm not gonna have someone trying to outpass me cardio wise. I said, I train way too much for this. I'm definitely gonna give it back. And it came to round one, and he was winning by like I'm talking maybe 7, 8 points. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a big gap between you and that person. So I was
Yeah.
sitting down, and then Master Steve just goes to me. He said, "You need to keep him at bay. You need to keep him at bay." And he knew that I was tired. He knew I was tired. And
Listen,
straight
Steve's
away,
clever,
what did
man.
he?
Steve's
You know,
clever.
he knew I was tired. So what did Steve say? Steve said to me, he said, "What are you gonna do?" He said, "You're gonna leave your head guard here and just walk into the ring like if you forgot." So not only did I have that 1 minute, but he told me just like if you forgot, go into the ring, and then when you get into the wrestling, go get a head guard. That's give me an extra couple of more seconds to go and get a head
Mm-hmm.
guard, fixes it up so I can get my breather
Mm-hmm.
back. Do you know what I mean? It was just them little type of details that kind of changed
Yeah.
the element of the fight, allowed me to be able to recover. And then when I went in back into the ring, even though what I didn't realize was the fact that he did that on purpose in the first round to get me
Mm-hmm.
out of breath so he can come out in the second round. But
Yeah.
what Stephen was allowing me to recover so I can match him. So when
Yeah.
it came to the
Yeah.
second and third round, he started
Mm-hmm.
dipping with his energy level.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, right, I'm feeling great now. Let's
Mm-hmm.
pull it on him. And
Yeah.
that changed the concept of the game. It changed the
Yeah.
concept of the game. See, in my mind frame, I didn't have that idea. The
Mm-hmm.
coach already knew what to do straight away. He's like, yeah, you need a bit more time. So he
Yeah.
just created a formality to be able for me to be able to to get back out there and perform to the best of my ability. So yeah, so craft is definitely something.
Yeah.
These guys have been on for such a long period of time. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I definitely agree with what you just said.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? That's good coaching because, and that's knowing your player because, and this is what I'm finding a lot as well. People try to intellectualize Taekwondo sometimes too much. You know, like, oh, like a back kick is a counter for a front leg or, you know, that kind of a thing. But it's like, if you don't always need to go to that level, you know, if he knows that Steve knows that it's not an issue with you being able to match him for skills. He just
Mm,
knows that the cardio is the issue and you need a rest. So if Steve wanted to, he could put on the technical hat and say, okay, this is a strategy you need to use technically. But because he knows that's not the issue right now, the issue is that you need time to recover. You know, it's not a technical thing, because if you both were on the same cardio level, you wouldn't have a problem. So it's not technical right now in the sense of, oh, right, you just kicked for that kick or whatever. And it takes a good coach and a good mind to know that. He knows that you're unpredictable, you're quick, you're flexible. You know, he's not going to be able to read you. You know, the only challenge with you winning is the fact that you might get tired, and then you might start to make errors and he might win. So that's a good call. That's a very good call. And sometimes we've got to take ourselves out of, okay, two plus two equals one, whatever, you know, 2 + 1 = 3. You've got to take our mind out of this kind of technique, kind of a strategy thing, and think, okay, what's the bigger picture here? How am I going to get my fight to win this? And even for you, if even if you're doing some independent thinking mid-round, you don't have time to speak to Steve or your coach, and you have to figure out what you're going to do. You have to really be able to read the game really quick, instantly, because it's like a instant reaction. You know what I mean? We don't have time to think sometimes in that level, but sometimes it doesn't have to be that complex. Sometimes people overcomplicate the game way too much. You know, you know what I mean? And
I totally agree.
It doesn't need to be that complex, man. All you needed to do was, you know, have time to get your breath back and get your composure, and then whack him up. And that's all it takes sometimes, you know. We can get technical if we want to, and trust me, we can. But it doesn't call for this right now, you know. And
I totally agree.
Great. That's great.
I totally agree. I think sometimes you gotta almost have a natural element to everything that you do. You know, even I'm talking whether it's sport, whether it's working in private sectors or whatever, but it's having a natural aspect of whatever you do. Do you know what I mean? Not every single subject that you're going to be doing, or objective that you're going towards to, going to be perfect. There's going to be some bumps along the way, but the result can still be the same. Do you see what I'm saying? One thing that I learned, and that quote is still with me till today, that you told me before, was to always make sure that when you finish a job, tell yourself, did you give it everything? Because if you did, that's more than enough. Because if you didn't, that's where the problem lies. Do you know what I mean? Did you give it everything? And sometimes I think, I can sometimes believe that I probably didn't. You know what I mean? Sometimes I can believe that I probably didn't, because I come to terms with there's so much more that I could have done in different areas. But that's the afterthought. It's not during that period. Do you know what I mean? So now, as an athlete growing up, I got to understand that I've got to be as honest as possible in everything that I do. I've got to be as honest as possible at everything that I do. If I know that I messed up here, I take full responsibility. But if I know 100%. That I did not, if I know that I did something, I said, no, I give 110%, but that was the end result. And then sometimes it gets to a point where even I think that I even get into an argument drawing the competition itself with the coach. Do you know what I mean? But it does not mean that I'm losing track or focus on what I'm doing. I'm having a debate and trying to make them understand where I am in between the rounds. I'll give you a prime example, Craig. I was in the French Open. I'm in the ring with Master Nelson, and you'll probably be laughing at this if you're watching this. We're in the ring, we're fighting, and back then it was a system called the La Just system that we used to use. You know, we used to wear the big socks, you know, to kick that body armor and stuff. And he was telling me, do the front leg to the body armor. So do the front leg to the body armor. That's what's effective for you at the time. I'm doing this front leg, blazing this body armor. It's not scoring. I'm keeping going and going. First round, I'm doing this. It's not scoring. I'm carrying on. It's not scoring. To the point now, I'm getting frustrated. And he's just telling me to carry on. And when I come back and sit down, this is what I mean about being honest, not just allowing the coach to just say, do this, do that. And I'm telling him how I'm feeling. You know, I'm giving my emotion towards him. He's telling me to go back out there, do the front leg. And I told him, I said, the front leg's not working. We're having an argument midway through a fight. That's not natural. But for me to allow myself to go back there with a clear conscience, I need to be absolutely honest towards him before I go back out there. Because if I'm not, if I come back, I'm going to say I wasn't honest enough, and that's my fault. So I don't want that on my hand. Do you know what I mean? So I told him, I said, it's not working. Don't tell me to do it again. It's not working. And he kept telling me, go back out there and do it again. And what happened? When I came out in the second round, I went back. And as soon as the fight started again, I started doing the front leg again, and it started scoring. 1 scored,
Okay.
2 scored, 3 scored, 4 scored. And then when I knew that when I was going to come out of the second round to come and sit down to chat to him, I know straight away what he's going to say. I know that he's going to go, I know he's going to say to me, what? So now what about that front leg? How's that doing now? Because
Exactly,
I know that's what he's going to
yeah.
say. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But then again, it was about being honest in the chair, you know, being honest in that objective that we had together to make sure that we understand each other fully going forward. Because if I didn't, then really and truly, I would be distraught. Do you know what I mean? I probably would start pointing fingers, which I hate doing. You know what I mean? So I think you got to be honest in everything that you do. And I think that quote that you told me is something that, you know, I live for. You know, got to be honest in everything you do.
Yeah. There's satisfaction in knowing you did your best. There's satisfaction in knowing, you know, if you take it with humility, there's satisfaction with knowing I put it all on the mat today, you know? You know, I did everything and you know what, it can give you a bit of peace, because sometimes when we're getting ready for a competition, sometimes we can think, oh, did I do enough? Oh, you know, have I trained hard enough? And sometimes you might feel tired from dehydration or from the workload, and you might have a day when you're not feeling 100%, and maybe you conceded a few points, you got kicked in the face or whatever in training. And I mean, our emotions can be like a roller coaster sometimes if we follow our results or you know, in competition or training. You know, if our mood is connected to our results, it is going to be a roller coaster for sure, you know. But there's satisfaction in giving 100% and knowing you gave your best, and you know, that sportsmanship. But to be honest with you, even though the front leg worked in the end, I agree with you that the conversation needed to happen. You know, because otherwise, if you didn't speak it out, you'd go back conflicted. You know, and in your mind, you're like, I've tried it, it hasn't worked, and you don't need to go back into the ring the next round conflicted. You need to communicate. You know, you need to be on the same page. So even though the front leg worked, you know, it's great that you have a. I saw one of the comments saying about you having an asking approach. That's fine, but your coach knows you. You know, and you're in the heat of the moment, and you know, nothing is personal in that point there. Nothing is personal, you know. And sometimes people are, you know, some people are really concerned that tone and the way people talk, and they get concerned. John Wright used to tell me so harsh how it was, you know. Right after I qualified for 2004 Olympics, I went to a tournament the next month. I was tired. I just qualified for Athens 2004, and I fought against Christophe Negrel from France. Yeah. And I think I was just going in like a train, you know, and I think I lost like 13-4, something like that. And my John just goes, it was 13-4, my friend. That's what he said. Like, it's proper harsh. Like, you have to say you got bang up, you know. That's what it is, you know. And so some people, could be offended by that. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it's like, it is what it is. If you don't tell me outside of the ring, I'm going to find out in the ring. If you don't tell me, if someone doesn't reveal to me that, you know, I have a weakness to this side where I have a blind spot, if someone doesn't tell me, I'll find out. So please tell me now. Anyhow, tell me now. I'd rather you tell me now anyhow than I go in the ring and find out and it costs me a match or it costs me 1 or 2 teeth. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? You know? So I feel like sometimes these conversations have to happen, you know, as it comes, you know, and your coach understands you enough. You know,
I totally agree.
To know that it's frustration and it's not personal. You're communicating. Do you know what I mean? And that's important, because when you have that, you know, you'll get it's one fight, it's behind you. One round, you won it, it's behind you. Do you know what I mean? And you can move on. So that communication is a fantastic thing, you know. And it's good that you guys can laugh at it afterwards, and not that he can laugh with you even though you're frustrated in the moment. That's a relationship. Relationships aren't perfect, you know. Even with a coach and a player, it's not perfect, but that's how you grow from those moments, though. You grow from the moments and understand each other so much more, you know. So I'm a total agreement with that.
One thing I'll say, you know, as a senior today, that probably transfers into, you know, to the element of elite training and probably personal life. Would you agree, Craig, that the engagement of what you do on your day-to-day basis have an effect on how you perform, in the ring? Would you say there has to be a transparency if like for instance, me in particular, I believe that when I'm training, when there's a calculated way of doing things or systematic way of doing things, that it's gotta be same thing of how you approach your day-to-day activity as well. So then that way it doesn't inflict you in any way when you're trying to achieve like a big goal such as an Olympic medal.
Oh, so you're talking about the transferable like what skills or the way of thinking in regards to planning towards what competing as if it was business. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of crossover there, and I feel like you kind of have to be like, even though you're a player, okay, your
Mm,
coach coaches many different players,
mm,
or in some cases, when I was in Great Britain, it's like I had a coach that was coaching other players. Sometimes my coach was coaching one of my rivals.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
so you really need to be the CEO of your own ship. You
mm,
kind of have to be like, I don't know if you like you yourself are like kind of like real estate. You kind of have to really take care of yourself and be very organized and practical, and you are your own master, put it that way.
mm,
You are your
mm,
own master, because when you go in that ring, yeah, and someone tells you to do something and you get caught with a spin hook in your jaw, and you're drinking through a straw, your coach is going home to his family eating steak, and do you know what I mean? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? And you're
yeah,
drinking
yeah,
through a straw. So you still have to think about what you do.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you're the one that's going in there,
That's true.
and that's
That's true.
important. Do you get what I'm
Mm,
saying? And
that's
you're
true.
saying that about 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 being organized, the same way you would outside of Taekwondo, inside of Taekwondo, or outside of sport, inside of sport. Like one
Mm,
Richard mentioned it in a recent comment. He was talking about how I used to write things down. One thing I used to do was like my strategy I would write down. Even when I was working with Sarah Boardhead when she was a sports psychologist in in GB. She was actually that helped me think about taking this route of being like a mental performance coach. One thing that I used to do is I would write down my strategy. I would write it down, and I would read it back to myself and visualize it. And it would be pretty simple because it's too much to, especially on the day, to think about 100 things. So there's some
mm,
things you can think about which makes everything else fall together. So I
mm,
was always good at movement. My footwork was always good. When I was moving and I was changing and I was fainting, it was hard for people to catch me.
mm,
Especially in my better years.
mm,
Like people weren't touching me when I was moving, and I was like, they weren't touching me. So that was one thing I would have to remind myself of,
mm,
and visualize. And I used to have, there was a style that I used to employ,
mm.
and I used to have like kind of key pointers that would remind me of the main parts of it, so the rest would fall into place. And I would.
Would you say that's like a law of attraction almost, like you writing it down,
Oh
visualizing for it
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
become what it
absolutely.
is?
Yeah, visualization. Listen, me tell you something. Yeah, for some, it's so underrated. I remember saying to one of my coaches, yeah, that I was visualizing my split reverse. And it was getting better, and I felt
Mm.
like he was
Oh, we
laughing at
know
me.
it's getting better. The way you was
Yeah, yeah.
knocking out
And then
opponents.
but people been going to sleep from the reverse hook from day.
Yeah.
So, and I shouldn't say it in that way, but because that's. But no, my spin hook was one of my best kicks. I scored loads of points. Got a lot of KOs from that kick. Some
Now
of
you all know where I got that spin reverse from. He's right here. All right. So when you're all saying, yeah, Cho's knocking out people with this, nah. So I'm telling you about this is this. I think if anything, you're the one that started that off more than anything else. So I think that's what I said. Growing up for a lot of people, I think they don't understand how your style or way of doing things kind of
Mm,
transcend to what I'm doing as a
yeah,
heavyweight. So
yeah,
it's definitely inspired me to do that, to my opponents, most definitely.
yeah, yeah. And I want to speak to your point before about about how Steve coached you.
Yeah,
In regards to like just that trick with the head guard.
yeah,
It's like for me, it's like I feel like sometimes, yeah, people will look at a player and think, okay, like they don't know what they're doing, or they're not smart.
mm,
But don't tell me they're not smart. What? Because they don't articulate things like you do. No.
Mm.
Some, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they know, they understand it well enough and probably can tell you it, you know.
Yeah.
So I think about a lot of players here that are so like when I think because you're a reaction fighter, sometimes they
Mm.
think that you're not a smart fighter because you most of it you're using your reactions and your skills. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
think, oh,
Yeah.
he's not smart, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's
Mm.
nonsense.
Mm.
So
Mm. Mm.
some of the
Mm.
best players in the world that are actually reaction fighters actually are very smart.
Mm.
Do you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mm.
But they just don't communicate the way you do. They know
Yeah.
how to win. They know how to solve a situation. They know how to go into a situation and win and
Yeah.
succeed. Just
Mm.
because they don't articulate it in intellectual terms doesn't mean they're not smart and they're not a great fighter. There's some world champions, you know, but yet they're reaction fighters. You know, their
Yeah.
speed, their dynamic, their you don't know what they're gonna do. Just because
Mm.
they're unpredictable does not mean they're not good, they're not clever. And that's a
Yeah.
fallacy. And I've even over here, I've heard coaches intellectualize things so much. But yet, if you look at their club's not doing nothing. If you look at
Yeah.
their players, they haven't got they haven't got the most important thing, which is mindset. You
Mm.
know, if they
Yeah.
go in the ring and they get hit hard, they give up. When
Mm.
I saw
Yeah.
that, I was like, oh my God, you know, you're
Mm.
just wasting your time from to begin with. Because
Yeah.
if you ain't ready to get dirty, if you ain't
Mm.
ready to get tough and
Mm.
fight, if you ain't
Mm.
ready to fight,
Mm.
then you might as well stay home. You might don't go to international competition if you ain't ready. If someone gets physical, because you know when you're light sparring, if someone hits
Yeah.
you hard once, it's not light sparring anymore. Do you
No,
know
it's
what I
not. It's full
mean?
on.
No,
You know.
it's not light sparring anymore. If
No,
you're
it's
light
not. That.
sparring, you're tapping each other, and someone gives you one kick to the body, you know, like or one kick to the face. It's
Yeah.
not light
Yeah.
sparring anymore. It's not light
It's
sparring
not.
anymore.
It's
No.
not. It's not at
Do you know
all.
what I mean? So, and if you aren't ready to go to that point, then I feel like you're wasting your time. You know, if you
I
can't,
totally agree.
yeah, you know, and
I
that's
totally agree.
yeah, absolutely.
I think
It's
that
not.
concept. I think over the course of generation, I don't want to use the phrase, you know, getting soft. But I think our generation today are spoon fed to the point where you know they rely on that spoon fed to get them through. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No, there's
Hmm.
no real, you know, there's no real ownership. You know, as you say, being the ownership of them, being the ownership of your own company, your own, you know, your own pathway. I think there's not that today because everything's kind of given, you know, to these to the youngsters. You know, some
Yeah.
of them just want to get to a destination of wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Some of them, you
Tracksuit.
know, some of them just want to get there to say, "I now made it," you know, but not thinking of, you know, what is the objective. You know, when I came into the academy, it wasn't just to be in the academy. You know, it was for me. It was like I have to represent. I have to represent.
Hmm.
You know, I gotta represent my you know my community. I gotta represent my family. I gotta represent those who helped me to get here. I gotta really fight as hard as I can to make sure that I bring the result home to put that that achievement not just for myself but for those who pushed me to get there. So all of that concept goes into my mind when I go into the ring. But today, concept of when I see youngsters, it's kind of got going through the motion. Do you know what I mean? Like get given an opportunity and they sit on it more
Yeah.
than anything else, rather than trying to excel, taking advantage of being in a domain of where you know of greatness that you want to become more greater than than the greatest people in that community. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's different between you know the now and you know and then. And it's kind of like now when I get introduced to a new youngster, sometimes I feel like I gotta filter my words, you know, to almost trying to cushion them, to trying to
Yes.
elevate them. And I hate filtering my words. I don't like, you know, to trying to say, oh, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get better. No, toughen up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
going. You get
Yeah.
hit, get back up. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You know,
It's
there's this concept of cycle of we gotta follow the you know the rules and relegation. I'm the person that break rules because reason being I'm breaking rules for simply because I want to see what I can take myself. If I'm gonna be staying on the limit every single time, and the doctor told me, "Nah, you can't go that far beyond because your toes not gonna allow you," I'm going to say, right, I'm going to see how far my toe is going to take me to that,
Yeah.
to see what I can go with it. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's my own thoughts and judgment, not what somebody else has told me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
given the information, I got told how to do it. Now it's my turn to see whether if I can actually do more than what they're saying, because
Yeah.
I see that as a challenge. And I think a lot of youngsters today need to be able to, to hold their own and be
Yeah.
able to push barriers, to be able to,
Yeah.
go beyond their own limit. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's going to make the difference of whether you're going to be great or whether you're going to be that person who's wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Guys, if you got any questions, throw them out there. If you want, if anything you want to ask, there was one coach. Sorry, one question. I don't really understand it. I think it was from a Cedar 72.
I see. Yes, that's I see the Denmark heavyweight.
Oh, okay. I
Denmark
remember him.
heavyweight. Yeah, Denmark
Okay. He
heavyweight.
said, "What about trust?" He says, "What about trust? Uh, your coach who think if they had another. What if your coach has a different agenda? How can you trust your coach if he has a different agenda?" So I don't know if I'm understanding that right, but it can be. I mean, and it might go back to when you have a coach that coaches several different people in the same weight category. you
Mm,
know do you know what I mean, which can be a
yeah,
challenge, and it happens in
yeah,
the big academies, and
yeah. It
that's why I
does.
say you need to be your own CEO. That's why I
Mm,
say you need to, you know you got to take care of yourself. You got to make sure, because there's fate, unfortunately. Coaches have favorites, or there might be someone for some kind of political reasons in the team. They want to push one player more than the other, more than others. And that's why you really got to take care of yourself. And you have to know the selection policy. You have to know these things, because I'm not going to be controversial, but in the past we have seen how people have done all the right things and they still don't get selected, like for Olympic teams. We've seen that.
yeah.
And it's happened in several countries.
Mm,
So that's why you really got to make sure that, and you have to have a good support system. The problem with sometimes with these central designated training centers and national team academies is that people lose their support systems. They lose
yeah.
connection to their support systems back home. I
Mm,
mean, you're lucky because we ain't letting you go. So you don't have to worry about you having a support system outside. You got that. You know
mm,
that.
mm,
Down to the bottom, down to
mm,
whatever. But it's like some people don't have that. Some people lose those support systems, they get taken from their club. And obviously, I mean, I like to believe it's with the best intentions, to
mm,
try and help them, this fighter, to be as good as they can. But if
mm.
they're in an environment where it's very competitive and there's competition for places, that's the problem. So that's why I feel like you really need to make sure that, like Steph said, you got to educate yourself.
So
You got to
yeah,
make sure that you look after number one. You got to make sure you're looking after number one. And you're making sure you're getting what you need from your coaches, from your physios, from your keep. You have to be accountable for your body. Is like your business. Your
yeah,
body is your body has different components. Like a business has finance, it has marketing, it has this, that, and the other. You have
yeah,
your health, you have your nutrition, you have your fitness, you have your mental preparation. You have these different aspects that you have to be the manager of. you
yeah.
know you have these different resources, but while you're there,
Mm,
you are the manager of your physio. You got to tell them what injuries you have. You are the manager of your sports psychologist. These are the issues I'm challenging with.
mm,
You
mm,
have
mm,
to
mm,
have a
mm.
relationship with your coach,
Yeah,
that you can speak to them openly.
yeah,
It's really important, especially, and I feel, and if you're going to find yourself in the same place, I don't know. Hopefully
mm,
not now, because you've already qualified, but there will be times when there will be this kind of this stuff going on,
yeah.
and this is where your support system is really important.
Yeah. I
So
think
if
I think the
anyone in the
question.
academy is watching, they need to make sure they stay connected to their clubs and their coaches. Sorry, sorry.
I totally agree. I tot
Mm.
I totally agree with what you just said, and something lying back to the question to if the coach has different agendas in regarding to be coaching a person in the same weight category as you. In our system today, that's happening today as we speak, and there is
Yeah.
questions in regarding to a lot of athletes' mind whether if that coach is for my back or is it for that other person's back, and that can probably hinder his way that he can perform, because he's carrying that thoughts and idea in his mind, wherever it goes, whether it's training, whether it's competition, even at home sometimes, he can carry that thoughts in his mind. But I think that person that does that a lot gets to a point where he kind of loses confidence within his own ability. Reason being is just because if you are in a predicament where your coach has two minus 80 and he's coaching them, both of them people, and he's the only coach, my importance is not him. My importance is me. What am I doing with my coach? How are me and my coach engaging to become the best that we can be? So when I step in the ring and when he gets in front of me, my only objective is to become that better athlete and beat him. Finish. That's it. That's all I gotta think about, and that's all I gotta focus on. The moment I start thinking about what is that coach saying to him, what is he doing with him, how is he applying himself with him, then you're losing focus of yourself and your own agenda, and that is where you lose track. That's where I lose track. And I think a lot of us need to become independent in the way that we think, in the aspect of where we want to go. It's almost like picking the right tool that you need, the right boat that you need to go and fix that job, and then you go on. Do you know what I mean? It's not about who used that tools, who's jumping on it as well. No, it's about what you need. So you got to bring your source into your corner and trying to create your own environment of what you need. And that's it. But I think a lot of the time as a human being, we get so clued up into the thought of we are going to focus on that other person. And the more focus and energy you bring into that, you're already tired as what it is before you even achieve your own objective, because you're already far away from the plan for yourself. And I think a lot of athletes are in that domain, whether it's taekwondo, boxing, whatever. But I think a lot of athletes are thinking in that frame of mind where they need to just get that mindset away. And, that negative thought, that negative energy that's draining you on a day-to-day basis. I think that is just, it just kind of kills your vibe. It kills your way of thinking. It kills the way of living. It kills it kills everything within you, because you can't focus. You cannot. How can you focus when you're thinking about some next guy who's not even worried about you?
Yeah, he doesn't care about you. He's not
okay. All they're thinking about is themselves. Do you know what I mean? So,
he's at a barbecue, chilling while you're sitting at home thinking about him. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, you know what I mean? So I think that way of thinking needs to be changed as an individual. I mean, you need to really just grab everything around you. That's what I said. I said for me, where I am today, it's a blessing. It's the blessing, the aspect that you got everything around you to be able to, to excel in anything that you do. You got coaches, you got physios, you got psychologists, you got doctors, you got performance directors, you got people who are booking your tickets to go there, then whatever you need to go. You got all of it around you. So from where I came from, to where I am today, when I say spoon fed, it's like I'm being spoon fed, but sometimes I gotta have to sometimes take that spoon out of my own mouth and be like, I want to do this by myself, just to remind me of where I come from, so I don't forget, of where I came from and now how I got here. Because I want to make sure that it stays as normal as possible, so I can be able to go in the ring and say that I did the work that needed to be done to perform. That's it. That I think that is probably the most important way of thinking today. So if every day that I'm waking up and there's a thought in my mind about somebody else or somebody way of being, and I didn't give the time to myself to think about me or what I need, I think you are losing half of your energy already before you even get started.
Yeah, I agree. Stephanie asked, do you think it's better for one coach to have one coach per athlete? What do you think about that?
That's going to be a lot of coaches, no?
Yeah, it would be.
That's going to be. But then again, I think that system could work. Reason being, the reason why I said that, Russia are a prime example. Each athlete have their athlete that they use from their club level. If they are the elite player in that time, they have their own coach, and I've seen them bring their club coach along with them wherever they go. So they allow that and they provide for that. And maybe it might be a way of how they stay connected with their club system to be able to support the club levels, or to come through to the national team. In an aspect, it's a way, it can work, but then again, you imagine, we have, should we say, beyond 20 to 30 athletes in the gym, and having 20 to 30 athlete coaches, yeah, it's going to be a lot of political
Yeah.
conversation going on.
Yeah.
So I think the system can work if it's controlled in the right way. So I think it's just about the federation itself. However, I think it can still work even with the few coach that you have. I just think the athletes just need to have a different type of mindset when they're working with a coach who's working with somebody who's in the same weight category as you. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Steph, I feel like it's tough. You know, I remember when I was competing, because I remember when I started competing with Great Britain. Yeah. I mean, 2001 World Championships, Great Britain, apart from Sarah, was a buy. Do you know what I mean? They were looked upon as a buy. Like if you got Great Britain, you got a buy. You know, easy. You know, but now it's not like that. I remember when we qualified, me, Sarah B, Sarah Stevenson, Paul, we had one coach, one doctor, and one PD. We had 3 staff members and 4 players, and every single person qualified for the Olympics in 2004. You know,
Well,
and I remember when we had one player in for each weight in the team, and because there was no pressure for places, the team spirit was ridiculous. You know, you could hear us over everybody cheering for each other. You know, but that's why I know what it looks like for a team to come from nothing. I know what is important when it comes to the success of a team. You know, that's why, because when you start seeing something come from Sarah Stevenson was the only one really, and probably David Thompson were the only people that were really looked at that could possibly get a medal at 2001 World Championships. Everyone else was just there. You know, that was the last time they sent everybody who won nationals to the World Championships. That was the last time. You know, after that they was very selective. You know, so but what I'm trying to say is that I feel like if you got so many people there, maybe if you had one coach work with different weight categories. So maybe you had one coach work with one heavyweight, one middleweight, one welterweight, one whatever, then maybe at least someone can trust their coach because they're like, okay, well, at least my coach is not working with somebody else. It makes it easier. I know what you're saying. What you're saying is ideal because you're taking control of it yourself. You can't control who your coach is working with. You can only control how you respond. And that's all we can ever really do in life. We can only really manage how we respond to things. We can influence things with, with the right attitude, but ultimately, it's basically how do we respond? And that your response is 100% right. It's like you have to think, okay, what do I need to do? If we wanted to help players that aren't at that maturity, I don't have that strong mindset yet, it's possible to have one coach that works with different weight categories, so at least they can trust their coach a bit more. You know,
yeah.
that's the only way I think it can be really done. You know, to be honest. But other than that, we need to. It's a big part on the mental performance coach. It's a big responsibility on the team's ability to prepare athletes mentally to manage this. And they should be having conversations about this. They shouldn't be overlooking this. This should be something that should be discussed when they're doing sports psychology. They should be discussing this. This should be an issue that every athlete has been coached on and being able to manage. That you may have to work with a coach that is going to be one of your highly working with one of your highly contested, you know, opponents or challenges. How are you going to deal with that? You know, and giving them tools to do that because it's the nature of the sport right now. Academies are getting big. There's so much people there. There's a benefit to having training partners, but there's the mental challenge of, having your competitors so close to you, you know, and I think that is really important about we mentally we need to do better as a sport mentally, you know.
Craig, on
Yeah.
Instagram, it's about to cut off in about
Okay.
30 seconds. We're gonna,
Sure.
I'm just gonna come off, and when I'm gonna come off and then come back on. So everyone that's here, please come back on. We're gonna answer your
Sure. Sure.
questions real quickly, and if you can just rewrite your question when we come back, please do, please do. I'm just gonna come back on, all right, guys.
Sure.
But yeah,
Go for it.
Craig, carry on. I'm just gonna come back on Insta.
Sure. 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 Do your thing. Do your thing. So we're just taking a 2-second break while we go back on. If you're
Yeah.
on Facebook. What's this about?
I think Instagram, they have not changed that system
Oh yeah.
of you know, their lives. So basically, when it goes an hour, they just cuts off straight away. So that's what they tend to do quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Do you want to? Do you want?
Um,
I mean, do you want to continue? Listen, we can do this
yeah, yeah,
again.
let's con- yeah, let's
I want to
continue,
talk
man.
about faith, dude. I want to talk about faith, man, a little bit. I don't know if we're gonna have
Yeah,
time.
let's go, let's get back on the live. You know, I think everybody's at home. People are enjoying this. You know, they so let's stay on, let's stay tuned.
Yeah.
Right,
All right,
let
if you're still
me go
here,
back on. I'm still here. I'm not
we're
going
about to
nowhere.
go on, guys. Because we're still on Facebook, you know. I think we're still live on Facebook. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Let's go
it's still
back
going on
live
with
on
Facebook.
Insta. Get everybody back on.
Let me see.
I'll just
Yeah.
Now I definitely think yeah, you're right. You know, the academy are growing. Most definitely. I think we've come a long way to to where we was before and
Yeah.
until now. And I think it's only going to get bigger. I think it's going to evolve even more.
Yeah.
And it's definitely yeah, it's definitely gonna. Is this you, Craig? Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just sent a request. Yeah.
I just added you now.
Cool.
It's definitely gonna make. It's definitely gonna put a lot of athletes in different backgrounds to evolve. I'm talking about just not taekwondo roots, but I'm talking those who are doing other type of martial art, because the gates opening in Great Britain right now where they're formulating people with different martial art.
Yeah.
And they're bringing them into the system, and they are evolving because taekwondo is evolving. New system are always being built,
Yeah.
a nice changing of the game as it as it is today. So yeah, so I definitely think the way that it's going at the moment of how it's evolving and how other sports are now formulating. Hi Samira, by the way. Samira is my sister, by the way. She's just gave birth
Okay.
in Qatar. Yeah, so
Wow.
she's
Congratulations,
she's a
Samira.
new mom.
Yeah, okay. And I think
She's a
Keon
mom.
wants you to recognize her. Keon TKD.
What's
I
good?
pronounced that right.
Kian. Oh, hi, Kian.
What's up,
Hi,
Keon?
everyone. Hi, everyone. We're just having a conversation regarding our sports and stuff. So if you joined us, stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're gonna still be here. We're not going nowhere. So yeah. So before we cut off, there was two questions. So Nicola, which is Sky's. I think that's Sky's parents, isn't it? Yeah. So what has been one of your biggest achievement of your life lesson through your taekwondo journey?
That's to you, right?
That's for us.
Oh, it's for us? Oh, well, go
Yeah,
for it.
that's
Go
for
for it.
us.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. You go.
Biggest achievement or life lesson. Um, I would say over the course of time, the things I probably developed the most as a human being, I would say patient. Patience has been one of the biggest thing that I've kind of admired today. I don't tend to want to rush things. I tend to take my time. It might sometimes affect some people when they want to work a little bit more faster. It's just because I always think there's always the right time to do things, or should we say the right time to be able to connect all the dots before you do anything. So that's why I'm really, really patient in what I do, even with waiting for results or waiting for response. I'm very patient for people to get back, and I think that's something that I've hired as a skill, should we say? In Taekwondo, I would say the the achievement in Taekwondo. I probably will say going to my first Olympic Games in 2016 was definitely a scar that I will always have. Having your first Olympic Games, you can never forget it. It's always going to be in your mind. It's always going to be in your thoughts. And mine is still today. Going to going to my first Olympic game, for me was one of the biggest, proudest, one of the biggest and proudest moments for me, because I went out there with no expectations. I went out there to perform and do my absolute best, and just get the feel of the sport. I never actually, to be honest, I never actually believed I can go so far. I always believed in my ability, but I did not believe I can go that far. So so seeing myself, at the medal fights, was something definitely that I definitely want to, recap when it comes to Tokyo, because that thought's in my mind, and I think, and there's times really when I go to sleep, there's moment I think about what I could have done differently, like what I could have changed when I was fighting. These thoughts still run in my mind. So even till today, I'm still, thinking about when I'm going to be in Tokyo. What am I going to do? How am I going to perform? And that's what makes me excited. That's what gets me up in the morning to go in the gym now, because there's unfinished business there, and that is why I can't wait to when Tokyo kicks off. And then when I get in there, I just know it's going to be go time. And when I get there, it's just, I think it's going to be the relief of all the thoughts and hard work that I've been doing to get there. And I believe that God willing is going to pay off. So that's for me, the achievement for me. What about you? What about you, Craig?
I think one thing that my journey, and I had a long journey. I was like 17 years, man. And I would say balance is important, yeah, and enjoy it. There's a number of lessons I learned. If you have an injury, okay, now it depends on where you're coming from, because you have some people that have injuries and make the most of them, and will take breaks all the time. And you have people like me that I broke my back and I was still training. And it was only till it got really, really bad that I had to stop that I stopped. So I would say if you know you have and you authentically you have a good work ethic, if you have an injury and it could be severe, just sit down on the floor right where you are. That's what I would say. Sit down, don't train, because I used to always be guilty. I feel guilty if I missed one session. If I missed one session, I was guilty. I felt guilty. People are working harder than me somewhere else, you know. So if you know you have a tough, what you're tough, you have a good work ethic and you don't make excuses. If you have an injury, one session off is not going to hurt you. I would say, and just enjoy it. I went all over the world for 17 years, and I can't tell you much about those places. I've been to Korea 8 times. I've been to China a couple of times. Went to the Great Wall. I've been to so many different places, but I didn't get to see much. So if I can say, if I have a conversation with someone and say I went to somewhere and they ask me about it, all it was hotel rooms and venues and airports. You know,
So true.
Seriously. So I've
That's
been
so
to
true.
so many places, and and it's like, but I can't tell you much about it. I didn't get to see much about it. I didn't enjoy my career as much as I was. I was so focused on in the ring that I missed a lot, I think. And so I would say enjoy it. Balance is important. Balance. Like if you have an injury, take a break. Change it. Maybe instead of working out, watch videos. Do some visualization, because that's just as much, if not sometimes more valuable than physically training. So don't mind taking a break. Even if you go to the gym to support the rest of your teammates, go there. Like Jib was telling me that the other day. But take care of your body. Take care of your body, because the injuries that you get, especially the severe ones, they never leave you. What happens is that you have to add different aspects to your training to take care of them. So because I tore my groin a couple of times, what I later on in my career I had to do like groin strengthening exercises just to maintain them from tearing again. Because of my back, I had to have an extra strong core in the future to make sure that I didn't have injuries with that again. So take care of your body, because a lot of some of the injuries that you have, and what you might find when you get older is you can develop arthritis, in areas where you break bones. Now, this is long term. I know for some of you guys that are still fighting, you want to know, okay, how do I go to Tokyo? What do I need to win? What do I need to focus on to be a champion and to win and to go to the Olympics and be where you are right now, Cho? I know a lot of you want to hear that, you know, and you do need to focus on that. But I say I always think it's good to have one eye ear and one eye on the future, you know, because otherwise what happens is when you finish, and I think this goes back to Asida's question about what do you think about your future? This is to you, I think, Cho, when he's talking about what do you think about your future?
Yeah, my
Right now,
future.
you're the center of everything. Later on, you'll just be a normal guy. That's
Yeah,
why I feel like it's important for you to think of having one eye on the future. You know, what are you going to
yeah,
do after? What is this
mm,
going towards? Because what's going to happen is that, and a lot of athletes struggle with this, is the transition from athlete to post athlete. And
mm,
that's a big area that I'm focusing on right now, is that what do athletes do, you know, when they, and if you look on my YouTube channel, you will see that been some videos about athletes when they're coming towards the end of their career. You know, I don't want to speak too much about this because that's for a different day and for a different topic, because really and truly you're getting ready for Tokyo. That's more important. And so I feel like for issues that probably the current fighters, we want to make sure that we help them, encourage them, give them tools that they can use, you know, and inspiration and motivation to, you know, to be where you are right now. But I would say enjoy the moment, try and enjoy the present. If you're in a place, you know, don't worry about what's not happened yet. Just make sure you do the most in the present. If every time you're at training, you're training hard, you're doing enough, you know. Do you know what I
mm.
mean? You're
Yeah, I
doing
totally
enough
agree.
right now. You know, if you're
Mm,
doing a week, if you're training, if you're going to a week training camp and in every session you're working hard, as long as you structure it, like, okay, I'm going to spend time doing visualization, I'm going to make sure I'm eating the right food, I'm going to make sure I do these things in training. If you've ticked all the boxes, don't worry about outside of it. Enjoy the rest
yeah,
of your life. Enjoy the rest of what you're doing, because it
mm,
can become all consuming, you
mm,
know, and and especially for you, Cho, now, I would say don't focus on it 100%, but have some idea, like Asida said, have some idea or some thoughts about what you want to do afterwards and what's this going to become. Do you want to
mm,
become a mental coach? Do you want to work in business? Do you want to go in and do, you know, talks to businesses? Do you know what I mean? Do you want to start your own club? Do you know what I mean? Think about
yeah,
what you want to do, because when I finished my career, I decided I'm going back to school. So the last 2 years of my career, I went back to university in the US. Now
mm,
I'm finishing my master's degree. You know, if I did that earlier, I could have went straight into mental performance. I could have went straight into sports psychology as soon as
mm,
I finished competing. You know, some
yeah,
athletes are transitioning straight into career afterwards. If you think about Andy Deere, went straight into coaching the para taekwondo.
yeah,
You got
yeah,
Damon straight into AI and commentating. These guys are
mm,
going straight into stuff.
mm,
Try and think about what you're going to do, and they haven't lost steam. They're still
mm,
motivated. They're still encouraging. You
mm,
know, their career hasn't ended with their athlete career. Their career's only gone on. It's just transformed.
mm,
A lot of
yeah,
athletes, when they finish, they go down, boom, and then they have to try and pick themselves up again. You know,
yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
rate Damon. I rate Damon. I rate what's his name, Andrew Deere, because they've gone straight. They've transitioned smoothly into something else, and they're
yeah,
having fun with it. You know. So I
yeah,
would
yeah,
think about that. Think about that. You know, think about how can I transition smoothly into something else and still feel passionate about it, because people retire and they've lost a part of themselves. So much
yeah,
identity is into Taekwondo. They lose a
mm,
part of themselves when they retire, you
yeah,
know, and then they
yeah,
feel lost, you know.
I agree.
So I would think it's probably a bit early for you to start thinking about this stuff, but
Yeah,
it's not early for you to it's not early for you to focus on it, but it's definitely early. It's not early for you to think about it though. To
yeah,
give it some thought, you know.
mm,
That's
yeah,
and that's this is for you actually, you know,
mm,
because a lot of this. When I went to my last World Championships 2017. Yeah, you don't know how many athletes were in their mid to late 30s just saying. There was some from the Dutch team, some from from different countries in the world, like Honduras. There was I can't remember how you pronounce his name, that Dutch player. They were like, I'm just gonna go to the next Olympics and see how it goes. That's a common mindset to these older athletes. I'm just gonna go to the next one. I'm just gonna go to the next one. You know, they're just hanging on. They're just continuing on because they're in the absence of anything else.
mm,
Don't be like that. Don't be
yeah,
like that. Try and think about your transition early and make it be healthy. You're still going to be the athlete. You're still gonna be the personality you are. You're still gonna be Cho. You're still gonna be you are Cho who does Taekwondo. Okay, you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
we just
are
got
more
Ramos
than
who just joined
Taekwondo.
in.
Yeah. Who's that?
Ramos has joined in from the Elite
Hey,
Club.
hola Ramos. ¿Cómo estás? Okay, yeah, but you are more than Taekwondo. All right. Don't get your identity so tied up into it that when you stop, you're like, who am I now? You know?
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
the
I totally agree.
challenge. That's the challenge. Make sure that you remember that you are this fun, motivating character, you know, as well, who can be of value to businesses, to people, to schools. You can make a very lucrative business. You can still be who you are because you are more than Taekwondo. A lot of people don't realize that they're more than Taekwondo, and
Yeah,
they experience loss when they stop competing. And that's
yeah,
what I'm working a lot with right now. There's a lot of athletes stuck in that boat in every sport, you know, dealing with that loss. They didn't have some plans for afterwards. They didn't transition smoothly. So have one eye on that, but focus on Tokyo first. But have an eye, at least some time to think about where am I going with this afterwards? Because for me, I never thought about retiring for the first 10 years of my career. It
yeah,
never came into my mind. I never thought about what I'm going to do next, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I get you
So
totally.
yeah.
No,
So
you're
think think
absolutely
think
right.
about that.
So you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. As I said, exactly, Craig. Give the future some thought and think how you would prepare. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I think that that thought naturally comes when you're coming to the latter stage of your career. You know, when you know that you're going to finish after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
But I think even though we shouldn't wait till then, I think
Yeah.
even as we're doing our career, I think we should have some type of idea to try to like probably do the qualification as needed, as acquired to do that, even
Yeah.
before your career comes to an end. So then that way, you know, you got that plan B as soon as you're done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As we know, our sport is not forever. Some people have to retire because injury occurs, and then they start thinking about other things because they didn't expect them to finish so early in their
Yeah.
career. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean? I don't think you just have to kind of wait to the end of your career. I think you should probably think about that even during your career when you're young to make sure that you got the qualification or you need some type of diploma to be able to get you to where you want to be going. Because I think that's very very important. I think when we get so should we say like the career that we're in becomes our clothing line that we thought is never going to be taken off anymore. And then when that clothing has been taken off, you're like, right, what else can I go and do? I think that's where you kind of seem to be lost in almost.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of very important for everyone that's listening that to make sure that they are thinking about what they're gonna do next because there's always a next.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when you're an athlete. What I want to talk about next is, and for me, I think for you as well, it's big in
Yeah.
our life. It's our
Yeah.
religion, like how
Yes.
important our religion is for both of us. I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian,
Yep.
and we used to exchange a lot of words, didn't we, regarding our faith
Yeah.
when we was, when we're back, and we kind of came to term that our values was in the same like the same borderline,
Yeah.
going forward. And it's something that you said when we was chatting about this last time. You were saying how, back then it was almost secretive, like people wasn't talking about it as much.
Yeah.
It was more
Yeah.
just between you and your faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now I think people are kind of making it almost like a fashion type
Yeah,
of
yeah, that's
thing,
what I was saying. I was saying
more than
you made
anything.
it fashionable, man. You made it fashionable to a big extent, and it's great because, and I, you know what, actually, I'm part of like a devotional group with Richard Allen, John Cullen, and John Cullen reminded me of a time where one of my coaches says, "Don't pray before you go on there, in case the referees are against you."
Mm,
Like, don't do. Maybe you should be careful about doing the sign of the cross or praying before you go onto the mat, in case the referees, they don't like that. And I'm thinking in my mind, listen, I don't care what the referee likes. Maybe I just need to
yeah,
knock this guy out. Then the referee can't say nothing. Do you know what I mean? But it's like for me,
yeah,
it's like, but yeah, it's like So I used to do it a lot of just, and you know what, there's scripture that says, when you pray to your Lord, pray in secret and he will reward you openly. So I'm okay with that, because do you know what I mean? And I feel
Yeah.
like it's more of the character that you portray, isn't,
Mm.
because some people will claim to be Christian or Muslim, but their behavior and their actions and the way they carry themselves does not represent that. It doesn't show that. Or do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's you want to carry yourself in a certain way that people ask you, what is it that's different about you? There's something different about you. I don't know what it is. And then it gives you a chance to minister, or I don't know how you would describe it,
Yeah.
as a Muslim, you know.
Yeah. Mm.
But
No.
it's but for me the way, so like I said, for me it was more, I would, I'd do my own, I would worship my God. I would, do my devotions my own way. I would go and pray throughout a competition, but I'd go and do it somewhere else, like in the changing
Yeah.
room or whatever, or I'll find my space to do it, or I would even do it while I'm standing up, with my eyes
Mm.
closed, because
Yeah.
you can, you can pray, in my faith, you can pray as you are,
Oh.
so we can come to the throne of God and whenever we want to,
Yeah.
so but for, like I said, for me it was like I used to do it, I used to kind of, just shield it a little bit, because I knew that my team at the time, you know I don't know what their relationship was with spirituality and with faith, but and I didn't know if it was the same as mine, and
Mm.
so, do you know what I mean? But like I said,
Yeah.
I feel like you've made it fashionable, and I think it's great because it's a part of who you are, and you shouldn't
Yeah.
have to shield that.
Do you
There's
know
no
what, Craig?
Cho without your faith. There is no
Craig,
Cho
no,
without your faith. Yeah.
it is true.
Mm.
You know what?
Yeah.
At first, I was kind of, growing up, because obviously when you're looking at what's going on in the media, and you're seeing how, religion are being spoken about in different limelight. My biggest thing is not to offend anyone. My intention is never to offend anyone. It's
Hmm.
always to show a strong front and show them that, the path that I walk is what I believe in. Do you know what I mean? But it's never to offend anyone or trying to prove anyone wrong in any way. It's always been my way of being. And as you can see, all of my friends are in different paths of faith, and I love them as equally to anybody else, and I walk with them, and I will support them, and I will always be there for them if they need me be. And that is always how I've always been. So it's never to
Hmm.
project who's right and who's wrong. It's always to
No.
project of who I am as an, my
Yeah.
identity of who I am as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, so everywhere that I walk, yeah, the faith will always walk with me, and
Yeah.
whenever, I never change my aspect of thinking of or how to be. I just kind of just go with the flow of how I live my day-to-day life. And I think for me today what I have to prioritize is that whenever I'm in a limelight or speaking to individuals and whatnot, is the most important is to make sure that they know my character, they know who I am. So if
Yeah.
I'm going to be on a social network and they're very much aware of what character I am, I wouldn't have to explain myself when I'm face to face. Do you know what I mean? And I think that transcends to, when the physical appearance and, behind the screen, it has to kind of link.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a big factor
Yeah.
for me. And then yeah, like I said to a lot of people out there, I think we are coming to terms where today we kind of hide, our faith, or we kind of hide or filter our words or way of being. And I can't, it kind of, you kind of lose your own identity along the way, because you're thinking about more about the public eye, of
Yeah.
what they're doing, and what they're saying, and you're thinking, I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't do that. But I think you need to be your own person,
Yeah.
and your own person is your true self. So I think your true self should always be shown. Whatever religion that you were in, it should be
Yeah.
shown, it should be practiced, and I think that's the imagery people want to see, the real you,
Yeah.
your real character. And I think when you show that, that's what allows people to to kind of transcend into, okay, this is who he is. I know what he does because that's what he shows us, and there's no,
Yeah.
there's no front. That's what it
Yeah.
is, and I
Yeah.
think that's very important.
I think so. I think so. Richard wanted to remind me of like the time when we were qualifying for when we were getting ready to qualify for Athens 2004. Richard got us
Yeah,
all to pray together. It was me, Paul Green, Sarah Stevenson, Sarah Bainbridge,
yeah,
and even John Wright as well. And even for John, I mean, as my coach, we had a great relationship. But even then, he had to acknowledge, because right before that qualification, my dad passed away like a week before.
yeah,
So I just buried my dad, and then the next week I was going to Olympic qualifiers. And so he could had to acknowledge that, listen, there was something special about today. I'm sure your dad was watching, and then Richard, like he said, Richard got us all to pray together, and every single one of us qualified. I'm telling you, we on that team, it was Richard, John Wright, this Scottish doctor, I can't remember his name now, and Gary Hall. That
mm,
was it. There was them four and us four, and
mm.
every single person qualified. And
Wow, wow.
so yeah, and I'll never forget that time. But
That's
yeah,
definitely a memory to never forget. Do you know
yeah,
what? You
yeah.
saying that, you
Mm,
saying that,
mm.
it's when I mean about a togetherness of being together and doing things together, no matter what
Mm.
that person's faith is,
Yeah.
because there's a great deal of respect between you guys. I
Mm.
think that's the thing I kind of learned, growing up into different communities and knowing different backgrounds. Being in the Ivory Coast, it's kind of like one heritage. Everybody's the same. Everybody knows that we all do the same thing.
Yeah.
We all together and whatnot. But when I came out of there and came into to England, it's different. Everybody does
Yeah.
different things, and you
Yeah.
can't just say because they're doing some different things, you can't get to understand them and accept them for who you are. You
Yeah.
have to, because that's what the religion teaches us, to do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
being with friends that from different countries, different parts of the world, I value that very much.
Yeah.
So like for example, one of my closest friend, Obam, the first Olympic medalist for Gabon.
Yeah.
He's a Christian family, and
Mm.
he's big in that. His family are big in it as well, and he
Yeah.
has friends who are Muslim. Some of them are Christian, and we get together.
Yeah.
And we get
Yeah.
together. When we get together, the mom comes in, she makes a big meal. There's a big
Mm.
meal on the table. We're all seeing all the chicken and meat, everything's on the table, ready to, have a feast. But before we have
Mm.
that feast, we pray.
Yeah.
There's no one going to say, why, who's going to do the Muslim prayer? Who's going to do the Christian prayer? Nah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just designate someone
Yeah.
and they just do the prayer. And normally,
Yeah.
majority of the time, it's the mom. The mom does
Yeah.
the prayer. We all hold hands and she
Yeah.
does the prayer. And then we all say Amen at the end. And then when we're done, we eat. And we are together in that bond. And that is what it's like. You know what I mean? We all appreciate each other's faith. We all tolerate each other in the same way. We all love each other in the same way. But we all got different faiths, but we still get along. There's no difference just because of the faith. The faith allows us to grow as individuals, but it doesn't separate us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It brings us a bit much
Mhm.
closer because we've got something we believe in, and I think that's how we should grow as a community. I think that's how we should be able to, develop, a community that becomes so great when
Yeah.
everybody appreciates each other in such way to grow.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? That's the great thing about Taekwondo, because when I think about it, I'm reminded of a time me and Jib went to Costa Rica. Me and Jibril Malik went to Costa Rica. I think it was it might have been 2014, 2014, I think it was. And it's like, so he's a Muslim, I'm a Christian.
Mm,
We're sharing a hotel room. I'll be praying and he'll be praying. We're in the same
yeah.
room. I mean, sometimes in the US, it's like sometimes there can be a little stigma sometimes attached to like people that of the Muslim faith, this, that, and the other. And I'm always trying to encourage people to understand that in the US, it's like because you have a lot of it's a lot of places where it's very segregated in many parts of the US. And sometimes there's stigma attached to because of the media, you got stigma attached to people of different from different backgrounds, different faiths. I try to explain to people sometimes that you do realize that there's Muslims with blue eyes and blonde hair, and they didn't not by what's the word, not by converting. You know, it's in their
True.
family. You know what I
Your
mean?
family.
You do understand that Muslim is
Yeah.
not a Muslim is not a race, it's a faith. Some people don't
Mm.
know that in the
Don't know that.
US, you know.
Oh
They don't
wow.
get that, you know. And explaining it to them is interesting, you know. And
Mm.
it's like, but for me, the fact that that we don't, it doesn't come into the conversation, you know. We just
Yeah.
acknowledge each other, we accept each other, we love each other, and then I can be in the room with Jib and he can pray at his designated times, and then I'll just pray the way I do, and then we go training, you know, or do we go get lunch or whatever. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
fact that you
Yeah.
can coexist like that, you know,
Mm.
and it's not a problem.
Beautiful.
Sometimes, sometimes being here, it's like it seems like there always has to be a conversation about why people are different. It's
Mm.
like there always has to. Why does there always have to be a conversation that highlights why you're different to somebody else? You
Mm.
know, do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
That's
get
that's
it. I
that,
get
that's
it.
what I struggle with. You know, I shared that in one of the, because I work in the multicultural affairs department in my college. I shared in the meeting that I our group, our WhatsApp group. You got
Yeah.
Ivory Coast Muslim. You got Pakistan. You got Morocco. You got Jamaica. You got England. You got all these different countries. Yeah,
Yeah.
never does race come into the conversation.
No.
Never does faith come into the conversation. Never do we feel the need to say, okay, we need to make sure we talk about this, talk about that. Never do we need to
Mm.
do that, you know?
That's
And
true.
we don't, I mean, and not to say that doesn't need to happen elsewhere. I get it. You know, the US is a different place, you know?
Mm.
But for me, it's like, I just find it challenging that we always have to we have to always highlight these things all the time, you know,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that's a
Mm.
struggle
Mm.
for me sometimes, you know. And I work in this department, and I see the disparities. I see the disparities in different communities, and I see how, you know, I see the need and how equality, you know, we need to make sure that we work towards, you know, racial equity. I 100% get that, you know, but at the same time, I feel like we don't always have to have conversations about why we're different. We can have conversations about what we have in common. And the
Mm.
reason why we don't have to have those conversations, because we share a passion for sport. We share a passion for, you know, for high achievement, for strong work ethic, you know, for achieving goals, you know, for being authentic, because the ring is a place of honesty, you know. You will find out when you fight someone good or better than
Yeah.
you, and
True.
you learn to respect your martial art and respect your fellow, you respect their work ethic. You can't buy power in taekwondo like you can buy a gun in the real world. You can't buy it. You can't go to the shop and buy a gun and have that power. You have to earn that power in
True.
martial arts. You have
Yeah.
to train hard. You have to work hard. In the journey through attaining skill in taekwondo and martial arts, you develop a respect for it, and you
Mm.
develop a respect for others that have achieved it. You can't
Mm.
just buy that, you know.
Mm.
And that
No, it's true.
respect for each other transcends anything else.
Mm.
And that's why we have our group, and we just converse and we just
Yeah.
chill. We got we got too much to talk about, you know, and we
That's
got
true.
so
No, it's
much
so true.
that unites us, you know. And
It's so
that's
so true.
controversial for some people, for a lot of people to say stuff like that.
Mm.
But I'm blessed to be a part of a group of people that is so diverse, and yet we don't even think about those things when we communicate,
No, we
because
don't.
we yeah
We don't.
yeah
I think
yeah
I believe it's like a thought process when it's been put on the table as a conversation. Do
yeah
you know what I mean? I think for us in particular, do you know what I mean? Until that conversation comes on the table, then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, there's thoughts and ideas. But before that, it's not even on our mind because we are so far away from that to the point it's not even an issue. Do you know what I mean? And I think and I think that's what our probably our sport done. Do you know what I mean? For us
Mhm.
in relation of how to be together, how to get on together, how to accept one of another, and how to respect each other as well at the same time. You know, because
Yeah.
everybody that steps in the ring with you is someone to be respected because you know that person has been grafting the way that you've been doing. and
Yeah.
also whoever wins between that person, there's a respect boundary because you're both working for that for that same goal, and that's to get the W. That's to get the medal around your neck, and that
Yeah.
has to be respected between athletes. So I think whatever country comes in front, I think that's what made us outside of the ring to accept whoever that person is, because we travel the world, we experience different culture, and we explore those culture, and we respect those cultures, and we understand each other in a way on the level of our sport. So I think that's what makes us a disciplined individual in our domain. That's what Taekwondo has done for me in particular, and probably you will agree as well for you too. That allowed us to learn and also grow as a person in different parts of the world. For us, I think for me that's probably the uh, biggest learning curve in our sport, for me in particular anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm humbled by that, and I, the lessons that we've learned from this sport, I feel like are so transferable,
Yeah.
and I just feel like if we sometimes we sell ourselves too short, in because one thing I learned from this sport is that we can learn anything.
Hmm.
One thing I learned from, like working on myself as an athlete, as a person, is that even a technique that I wasn't good at, through
Hmm.
repetition, I could learn it. From, it's like leaving taekwondo, like moving on from taekwondo and going back to school. It's like, it's like, I just, I'm set to get a 4.0, which is like basically a first in my master's degree. I
Yeah.
wasn't even a school person when I went to school. You know, I wasn't a school person when I went to school. But
Hmm.
yet I go back into school with the mindset that I got from martial arts, and it's like there's nothing I can't do. It's like
Hmm.
now it's like you're kind of sport for choice, because I know if I apply my mindset to learning in
Hmm.
martial arts to anything else, I will learn it. It's not if I will learn it, it's when.
Yeah.
It's not a question of if, it's when. It might take me longer than someone else, but once I've made a decision and I know how to practice something, it's over. It's a wrap. I'm going to learn
Yeah.
it, whether it's a language, whether it's a degree, whether it's a new skill. Like when I came to America, I picked up the guitar. Yeah, I mess around. You know what I mean? It's like,
You pick up the guitar, yeah?
yeah, well, I mean, just normal chords, but do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing. It's repetition, man. You just the same
It's
thing. You do,
true.
like you do a
It's
500
true.
kicks a day. You do,
Yeah, you did that.
you do the finger exercises how many times a day,
It's
And it's
true.
not if
It's
you
true.
learn it. It's just when. It's
Yeah,
not a
it's true.
question of if.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
not a question of if. Whatever skill whatever new technique, whatever it is, you apply visualization, you apply repetition for it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's true.
You can learn anything, and that's one thing. That's one of my biggest. And I probably should have answered that question. I should have answered. I should have added that to my answer earlier for. I think it was Kane, but like you can learn anything. That's one thing
Yeah.
that I got. That's one thing that I learned from my experience with Taekwondo. There's nothing you can't learn. You just gotta just really apply yourself.
No, you definitely. No, you're definitely right. Okay, Instagram is going a little bit weird.
Yeah.
On my phone. Oh, I think we're back now. I think we're back now. Yeah, we're back now. So yeah, guys, if it does cut off, just go on to Facebook because my phone is on 4%. So like it's about
Okay.
to
Okay.
probably. So
Cool.
if it does cut off, just go on Facebook. We're on Facebook on is the Maximum Performance page.
Yeah. Maximizing performance. Yeah.
So if it does cut off on Instagram, just go on Facebook. We'll still be there.
Yeah.
And just go over there, okay? Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to quickly touch base on, and I don't know if you agree with this. Would you say parents make athletes? Because there's this this subject that I've been talking with even with private sectors, like trying to understand their way. Like I always ask them the question, do you think your parents
Say
probably
that again, Joe.
would you, I said to them, I said, do you think parents, can you hear me?
1 second. Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Okay, my
I don't know what's going on with my sound, man.
Oh, okay. Steph says she can't hear me. Can you guys just let me know if you can hear me back there real quick? Can you hear me? Can you? Okay, so they just said it. Can you hear me, Craig?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I just got I got sound going on twice here.
Can't hear Cho at the moment. Okay. Hang on, guys. We're gonna try and fix this real quickly.
Yeah.
I
got too much volume going on over. I don't know what's going on over here. 1 second.
Can you guys hear me now on Insta?
All right, cool.
Just give us a thumbs up or something if you can hear me now, guys, on Instagram.
Hello, I can hear you now. I fixed it.
Can you hear me
Sorry
now?
about that. I fixed it. Yeah, I fixed it.
I'm just trying to get. I'm just trying to see if people can hear me on Instagram because they said they can't hear me.
Oh, they can't. Yeah, I can't hear you on Instagram. That's what I was trying to hear you on.
Okay,
I was trying to hear you on Insta. I can't hear you on Insta either.
Okay, that's a bit bizarre. Okay, so
I can hear you on Facebook. But...
I can hear. Okay, so they can hear you, but they can't hear me. So something must be up.
Oh.
Right. 2 minutes, guys. Let me do a recall on Insta then.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Let me do
We're still on Facebook
Insta,
though.
right?
Yeah.
No, it's not on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Do a recall. Let me share this real quick.
Man,
I don't know why. It's done now. Doing this.
And it is hot.
Boom.
You know what it's like where you are.
I'm here.
I'm
gonna get.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get my Just gonna get a charger for this real quick and just set this up here.
Or is your phone dying?
It's on 2%. Here we go. Let me get this. Set this up here. Ooh. Gonna need a plug area. All right, changing location.
Are you moving things around?
Yeah.
Yo, we're gonna be talking all day, you know. We might as well just you might as well just like, you know, save some for the next episode, man.
we will. Just like another 5 minutes and then
okay.
We can let the people go. Just real quick. Let me just put this on real quickly. Okay. We're on here. Let's do this. Bam.
All right.
Bam.
Oh, there we go.
What's up, guys? We're not gonna be too long. We're just gonna do a little 5-10 minutes, and then we'll just wrap up. All right.
Yeah, I just sent you an invite.
Um,
Yeah, because we need to think about like other topic to talk about, man.
there's loads.
I know,
There's
I know.
loads. But I was saying, can everybody hear me?
I think I can hear you now. Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Okay, that's good.
yeah, I got you.
So what I was saying before um, was around the question of I was having this conversation with with like different people, even with the private sectors. The question that I had was, would you say that parents make athlete or parents make individuals' careers? Because I would like for me as an essence, my parents obviously put me into the sport, always motivated me to get and driven me to be able to, to do what to do what I'm doing today. Would you say it's more or less down to the parents or what path you take in regarding to your career, or would you think it's more or less influence from the outside that changes the aspect of the individual?
So do we think you think the parents make the athletes? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't. I think it's changing. You know, and I think when I grew up, I feel I can hear a bit of an echo. Do you have your headphones plugged in?
I do have my headphone plugged in. Hang on.
Well, I'm hearing an echo.
Wait there. Can you hear now?
Yeah,
Is that better?
yeah.
Is there an echo?
Got what? Maybe a little bit, but that's okay now. That's good now.
Okay, fine.
But what I'm saying is like, for me, it's like I feel like when I was a kid, my mom wasn't involved in my career. You know,
Mm.
she wasn't really involved when I was coming up. It was something that I did on my own.
Yeah.
You know, and in the I think in London in London, because it's so easy to travel and get about, I feel
Yeah.
like it's easy to do that. You know, and I feel
Mm.
like for me, I wasn't babied by my parents. Do you know what I mean? To a point where I
Yeah.
feel like some people are now. You know, so for me, it was like I feel like for me, it was I don't know. Your parents always have an impact. You know, of course, and it depends on how involved they were. You know, when I was growing up, my dad wasn't around as much. You
Mm.
know, and I used to do a lot of things on my own. Like I'd be out playing all day. You know, in my neighborhood, kids would be out playing all day. You know, that was before mobile phones and you had computer games, but we used to play like football all the time. You know,
Mm.
so when
Mm.
I was growing up, it was a bit different. But I feel like now, especially in the US now, where I am now in the US is like to get anywhere, you need to
Mm.
be able to drive most of the time, you know?
Mm.
So that if you're a kid, you ain't going nowhere if your parents aren't taking you.
Mm.
You know, you aren't really gonna do much of activities. Parents are over here, parents have ridiculous schedules to get their kids to activities, you know. They be running around
Yeah.
crazy after their kids taking them to different things,
Yeah.
you know, and so parents are a lot more involved, I feel like, in their children's sporting background. Now that
Mm.
can be positive or negative because you get sometimes the parents that are over involved,
Yeah.
arguing with coaches, thinking they
Mm.
know better, you
Mm.
know, baby baby and their kids, you know. So it can, but then you have some parents that know how to support without getting too involved.
Mm.
And then it's a blessing because then now like their kids, yeah, and they have their parents that have the finances as well to send them
Mm.
everywhere because taekwondo is expensive right now. If you don't have money, you can't travel everywhere to go to his grand prix and go to his opens, you know.
That's true.
So it depends, you know. I feel like the parents have a chance to either be really helpful or they can be detrimental
Mm.
in this day and age. And it's important for, and that's why even from my perspective as a mental performance coach, I do work with parents
Mm.
because parents need to know how to support their kids in the right way if they want
Mm.
their kids to really excel in their sport. They can't get overly involved, they can't baby them. They need
Mm.
to, what it's just like if you have two parents, you know, if you have two parents on a different page, you
Mm.
know, it's confusing to the child. The child will, you will know how to work one parent against the other, know how to
Mm.
get what they want, you
Mm.
know. And it's the same way if you think about it with like, because sometimes as a coach you play some sort of a parental role depending on the age of the athlete. When they get
Yeah.
older it's more here, but when they're a kid it's more like here. and you kind of need to be on. You need to be on the same page with the parent. Otherwise, the parent can undo a lot of the work you're doing, or
Yeah.
you can undo a lot of the work of what the parent's doing. You know, so like if you're trying to push the child to push themselves, step outside of their comfort zone, but they go home and they be babied, then that defeats the object, because then they're probably not going to be as invested in training. They're gonna, they're not going to be as strong. They're not going to feel the need to push themselves as much, because do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So you need to be on the same page with the parent. The parent's role is important, and I feel like a parent can do a lot of good, or they can actually work against the athlete's best interests.
That's
So
amazing.
that's what I've seen with
Mm.
parental input
Yeah.
but definitely from your aspect, if you got a strong parental figures, they can definitely instill a lot of mindset, a lot of good positive values, and you know into you.
Mm.
But like your dad did. My dad,
Mm.
even though he still installed some good attitudes into me, even though
Mm.
do you know what I mean, he still did do
Yeah.
that, and they
Mm.
paid dividends. But
Mm.
the same way you can have a father like your dad or my dad, or a coach that we've had coaches, you can also have the
Mm.
opposite. You can have parents and coaches that don't help you have that strong mindset. You
Yeah, no,
know,
you're right. Okay.
you know.
For all you
So
African parents out there, let your child do what he wants.
ah,
you
you
know,
know.
my my community, they told the children straight away, my child's going to be a doctor. No, he doesn't want to be a
Eh,
doctor.
that's
You're
right.
forcing him.
That's right. He's going to. If you're not a
He's
doctor
going to,
or a lawyer, they're like they're not. They don't want to hear it.
they don't want
If
to
you're
hear
not,
it.
yeah, you know,
They don't want to hear
yeah.
it. But
Because
it's
when they
just
have the
that you're definitely right.
conversations, yeah, my son,
My son.
he's going to be a politician, you know, a doctor, Yeah, it's like if you ain't in those roles, they're not interested.
It's so true.
You know,
It's
it's
so true.
but
It's so
yeah,
true. But
but
you're definitely right. Parents are definitely a big part, to
they are a big
everything.
part. And I'm not trying
Uh,
to be negative about parents. It's just to say that they have a very important role,
role, yeah.
and it doesn't always come naturally.
Mm,
It's to know how to really help your child. It doesn't come naturally.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah.
just for some people it might, and for some people it might not. If you don't have a sporting background or a combat background, you
Mm,
know, I mean, usually if someone hurts themselves, if a baby falls over, or I don't know, if someone hurts himself, you want to parent is a natural parental reaction to want to comfort them, and make sure
very
they're
true.
okay, and this, that, and the other.
Mm,
But in an area like such as combat and
mm,
stuff like that, you know,
mm,
it can be detrimental, because
sometimes.
if you can't comfort them in the middle of a fight, they get kicked in the face. You know,
Mm,
you can't,
mm,
you
mm,
can't. They need to be
it's
able to
true.
stand on their own. You know,
Mm,
to a certain degree. And
mm,
so yeah, I went on a bit about that, but it's important. It's
it's
just
important.
that parents need to be educated and coached as well.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what I
right.
would say.
You're right.
Mm.
Now, Craig, you know what? I think we're gonna
Mhm.
give it a cut
Yeah,
there
we need to.
because
We need to.
because
Yeah,
we're gonna be there's more stuff that we can speak, but then we can definitely speak about. But we're gonna definitely tune in again soon to to have a discussion, and hopefully
yeah,
next time when we do this, obviously this is our first one, so it's gonna be a minute to come. So we're gonna probably put like a question box where you can put topics that you want us to talk about
yeah.
in
That'd be
regard
cool.
to any situation that might probably affect anyone at home or if the parents have any questions or whatnot. These
Yeah,
thoughts and ideas are our own experience of what what we had, and then we're just happy that we can share them with you guys. And also, we're very fortunate to have someone like Craig, who's a performance coach, and I think it's really, really valuable, listening to him and taking on some advice. Because even though while I'm sat here speaking to him, I'm getting coached. I'm taking in all these advice for myself, and it's very refreshing. To now go and start my Monday ready to go.
there
So
you go.
yeah, so definitely appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're all proud of you, Cho, man. All of us from London, and and we're behind you, man. And Tokyo 2020, man. You're not going there on your own. It's important to remember that you're not going there
Yeah,
on your own, man. You're not. And trust me, even if you have to pick up the phone from Tokyo to talk to any of us, pick up the phone, man. Say, listen, man, I need you to get me hyped up, man. I need to kill this guy,
Right.
you know, or whatever, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, just
Definitely.
you have a support system, and so I'm sure it can get lonely sometimes. You got your wife, that's good as well. You know, I'm sure she's with you, so that helps a lot. But you also have your support system as well, you know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
2021, man, you know, don't worry, man. We got your back, man. You know, I'm telling you that.
Nah, but really appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you. But
Yeah.
thank you for always being there for me. You know, you always inspired me, and yeah, man. I hope we can inspire many more people out there with what we're doing. And then yeah, man. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, we will, man. Let's see. You know,
Man.
people got the questions. We'll shoot
We'll
it, and
cover
we'll,
it.
you know. All
So,
right, guys. So,
what
Stephanie.
did Steph say? Cho said TKD is a game for him. True stories.
There you go. You
He
got to do
said
what you
True
got to
stories a
do.
game.
Those are comments
Like
there. I don't
playing
even know what's
tricks on
going
his
on.
opponents. We got to.
Man, that head guard trick was legit. It won you the fight, man. What's the deal, man? You
Yeah,
know?
there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Needed to rest.
yeah,
You got
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Don't play these tricks. You know what I mean? But we know Master Rich has got many tricks up his sleeves.
Of course, of course,
Hundred
of course.
percent, 100%.
You know.
Guys,
All right, guys.
much
All right,
appreciated, man. But
all right, man.
listen, we'll catch you guys very soon.
We
Stay
will.
safe. God bless you. Love
Yeah,
each other.
and this will be on YouTube as well. So if anyone wants to run it back, it's going to be posted. It's all, you can also see it on, I'm sure, on your page as well, right? You're going to be posting
Yes.
it as well.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram, so I posted everything that
Yeah,
we spoke about.
yeah,
So you can watch it again if you want to, guys. Yeah.
yeah. All
Bless
right.
up. Take care of each
All
other.
right.
Stay
Take it
safe.
easy.
Love each other. See you
Yeah,
later.
we'll catch up, man. All right, guys.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye.
You're gonna stay on the Zoom.
Yeah, I'm just cutting it off.